All right, you're all ready.
Great, thank you. It's 6 o'clock and I'm going to call this joint work sessions of Lacey Council and the Youth Council and the Lacey City Council and Commission on Equity to order. We do have a 2-item agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously carries. We have an agenda. And before we get started on our Lacey Youth Council 2023 work plan, let's just go around and do some real quick introductions for everyone. And for the Youth Council, just give your name and what school you're from.
My name is Ayana Young, and I'm a junior at North Thurston High School.
My name is Sarah Town and I'm a junior at North Thurston High School.
My name's Rory Line. I am a junior at Timberline.
My name is Kiara Coleman and I am a junior at Timberline.
My name is Rihanna Joseph. I am a senior at River Ridge.
And my name is Justin Beckley and I'm a senior at Timberline.
My name is Keegan Bolt. I'm a senior at River Ridge.
My name is Nathan Miller and I'm senior at Pope John Paul II High School.
My name is Nathaniel Clay and I am a junior at Timberline High School.
Great, thank you for those introductions. And let's just go right into the Youth Council 2023 work plan.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Council members. Maybe for the Lacey Youth Council's benefit, a quick introduction as well to you all. And so, Mr. Mayor, I'll hand it back over to you.
Well, great, thank you. Let's start down on the end.
Good evening, Ed Kunkel, City of Lacey and North Thurston High alumni.
I am Carolyn Cox. This is my 6th year on council.
Malcolm Miller, Deputy Mayor.
Robin.
It's me. I'm Robin Vasquez, 1 year on council.
Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Councilmember Michael Stedman. My daughter graduated from Timberland last year.
Great.
2 years.
And I'm Andy Ryer. I'm the mayor of Lacey and I graduated from North Thurston High School in 1992. I'm old. Now I'll turn it back over.
Well, fantastic. We're really excited for the Youth Council to be joining us here tonight for the first ever joint meeting between the Lacey City Council and the Lacey Youth Council. And we are here tonight with the recommendation to approve a motion to accept the Lacey Youth Council's 2023 remaining work plan. And we'll get into more detail on that work plan here in just a second. Before I jump into the presentation, I do also want to acknowledge that we're joined by some staff members here tonight. So we have Kelly Adams, our Special Projects Administrator. And Kelly has, been the champion and leader of Lacey Youth Council since its inception and has continued to really help out with Lacey Youth Council to date. In addition to Kelly, we also have our new management analyst in the city manager's office, and that is Sadie Sigling here tonight to join us. Sadie is going to be working to transition to taking over Youth Council here in the future. So, really taking on Lacey Youth Council for the rest of the couple of months, and then also looking forward to the 2023-2024 year. So I'm very excited to have both of these staff members and really appreciative of all of their efforts. I'm also very appreciative of the Lacey Youth Council. They have done a phenomenal job here over the last couple of months with our Lacey Youth Council. And I will say, we have gone through a couple of different iterations and they have been just fantastic stewards of the public as part of this process. So Lacey Youth Council, I just want to say I really appreciate all of your hard work and efforts that you have put together as part of this body. And I have learned a lot from you all. So thank you for everything you do and thank you for being part of this program. So with that, I'm going to start a brief presentation and then I'm going to hand it over to the Lacey Youth Council to go into a lot more detail. So we have done our introductions with the Lacey Youth Council, but I do want to point out a couple of members here. We do have Justin Begley, who is serving as the mayor of the Lacey Youth Council, and then we have Rihanna Joseph, who has been serving as our deputy mayor for the Lacey Youth Council. We also have a couple of advisory board representatives. We have Nathaniel Clay, who has been serving on our library board as our youth representative. And then we have Sarah Town, who's been serving on our Parks, Culture, and Recreation board. So when we started Lacey Youth Council this year, Kelly was leading Lacey Youth Council. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to provide a little background on the first couple of months. So Kelly.
I don't want to take anybody's microphone. So 2 big changes immediately at the beginning of this youth council season. The first was we got to expand the group. So you see there are many more members, and they really took the lead in taking those representation roles at the boards and commissions. The other difference was we had a day-long orientation. We heard feedback last year that there just wasn't enough connection time and expectation management. So really, what should we expect coming into youth council? And so we had a great meal together. They had time by themselves, no adults, to get to know each other and to connect with City Hall. We had the honor of having the city manager, Scott Spence, and the assistant city manager, Shannon, at the time to just spend some time and answer questions, get to know us as people. And Deputy Chief Robert Hollis was there, and he gave us a wonderful tour of the police station. So we really got to know City Hall. In September, this was their first opportunity to really sit down and learn about leadership, to really spend time with Mayor Ryder, to really learn about officers, what the representatives do, what's expected, and to make sure that those roles still fit the organization as we had it today. And so we took a little bit more time this year for elections and to learn Robert's Rules of Order so that we all understood parliamentary procedure. And then in October, we were able to spend some quality time with Deputy Mayor Miller. We talked about different projects where we wanted to go this year, and we learned a lot about municipal roles. So this was a pretty fun exercise. It took up an entire wall of the executive boardroom, and it was all of the different positions and roles that we have here at local government.
Thank you, Kelly. So in November, we talked about policy bodies and various districts, for local government, specifically here in Thurston County, and then also talked about kind of why the history behind it and, the context in which a lot of these local governments were created. And I'm going to go over this really high level because the Lacey Youth Council is actually going to unpack a lot more of what they learned through this process here in just a second. In December, we talked a lot about money, specifically looking at taxes and budgets, and held a Q&A session with Councilmember Vasquez. And as Kelly highlighted, we held other Q&A sessions with the Deputy Mayor and Mayor Ryder as part of our policy to get more exposure and interaction between the Lacey City Council and the Lacey Youth Council. And that's also why we are here tonight to continue that. Moving into January and February, we met with Councilmember Greenstein, and we also talked about zoning and neighborhood commercial districts. And we started preparing for this meeting as one of the big projects that the Lacey Youth Council was taking on, knowing that this, again, was the first time that the Lacey Youth Council would be hosting a joint meeting with the Lacey City Council. And as part of that, we have been doing a lot of public speaking practice to prepare us for this meeting. So that leads us up to today. And as you'll notice, we have done a lot of civic lessons to this point in time. And now we want to move forward with the rest of 2023 with the work plan that is in front of you and really focus on getting a lot more input on items, programs, and initiatives from the Lacey Youth Council. So looking into the next couple of months, we are hoping to get in front of the Lacey Youth Council to talk about a potential advisory board stipend program, our utility wrap program in 2023, to review the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Comprehensive Plan, continue our conversations with council members. So hopefully we'll be able to get Councilmember Kunkel and Councilmember Stedman to attend a future Lacey Youth Council. We'll also be talking about transportation planning and beginning to focus, it's kind of amazing to say, to focus efforts on the next year of recruitment. We are going to have to start doing that here pretty soon. And then moving into May, doing a dive into the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, talking about employment opportunities at the city, and continuing to see ways that we might be able to recruit for the future Lacey Youth Council. And then in June, wrapping up with some conversations on the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Strategic Plan and a Community Liaison Program. And then wrapping up the Lacey Youth Council with a celebration acknowledging all the hard work and efforts that the Lacey Youth Council has put in to date. So that is the proposed 2023 Lacey Youth Council work plan, and I'll wait till the end of the meeting for the motion. But what I'd like to do now is actually turn it over to the Lacey Youth Council to describe in a little bit more detail some of the activities that they have gone through. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Keegan Bolt.
So towards the beginning of council, we discussed raising revenue and expenditures. So we talked about the budgetary process, deciding, how much money the city needs, where's it going to come from? So those main sources of revenue, including like property taxes, utility taxes, et cetera. And then we also kind of wanted to get from the perspective of being on the end of those taxes. So we did this kind of basic tax simulation thing. Everybody had a house that they had to pay different property tax. And I was the assessor, so I got to take the money from everybody and make sure they gave me the right amount. But then, yeah, we also talked about more of the expenditure side. So the like general special funds and just allocating those towards the operation of the city and specific projects, and the necessity of the city to have a balanced budget. And then we also had another activity for that where we were given a budget for the magical city of Youthville and divide it between various like services and projects for residents. So we had to, discuss the priorities of our city and how we would allocate those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Keegan. Another thing we focused on is land use and planning, and specifically on the neighborhood commercial area. So I'm going to turn it over to our mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm just going to introduce myself again. My name is Justin Begley. I attend Timberline High School, and I'm also serving as the youth mayor of the Lacey Youth Council. The Lacey Youth Council had the great opportunity to talk with Hans Shepard from the city's Community Economic and Development Department at our January 19th meeting, where we went over how to really amplify youth voices within the process of kind of asking what would youth members want within the neighborhood commercial districts. The Lacey Youth Council kind of brought up a few different options. Our three were bakeries, boba shops, electronic repair shops, and grocery stores. Our three motives for these were just convenience, because there's not really much within the city of Lacey. So people travel outside the city of Lacey to get these to neighboring cities like Olympia or other cities as well. Safety, making sure that it's safe for younger youth members to go there by themselves if they really want to, because it's in a neighborhood, and making sure that, that option is there to walk. And community oriented, making sure that those businesses are ran by people within our community, and people from our community are buying those products. So like the cycle continues.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll hand it over to Rory to talk about Lacey.
Sorry. Oh. On September 1st, we went over Lacey 101, which is just the general depiction of what Lacey is. In 1966, that's when Lacey began. That's when we became a city. Our population is around 53,000. A good chunk of that is either people currently serving the military or are veterans. We have 24 schools located in Lacey. Our North Thurston public schools include 13 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, and 4 high schools. We also have 2 colleges, St. Martin's, which has around 1,300 students, and South Puget Sound Community College, which has around 6,000 students in its Lacey campus.
Thank you, Rory. We've talked about the Q&A a little bit, but Kiara, could you tell a little bit more about your experience with the question and answers with the council members?
So with the Q&A with the council members, we were able to get a more in-depth insight about more like questions that we had, and it felt like we got a lot of answers for what we wanted to see. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over to our deputy mayor to talk about policies. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, Ayana, apologize. I'm going to actually turn it over to the clerk. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we have never had a Lacey Youth Council clerk. So Ayana has the distinction of being the first clerk.
As the clerk this year, I have taken attendance, gone over meeting minutes, and just kept track of information throughout the meetings and took notes on different information from the advisory boards, and just it was good to have information to look back on throughout the meetings just in case we needed it.
Great, thank you, Ayana. And now turning it back over to the Deputy Mayor. And thank you again, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so how ideas get turned into policy. So there are 4 general steps to policy making. The first is adoption into the agenda, in which the issue regarding the potential policy is discussed, where council talks about the goals and the objectives and the community vision of what the policy will accomplish. Then the policy is then formulated, where budget, local resources and local services and other resources are discussed as well to see what is relevant to achieving the policy. And then it is implemented by city staff. And then lastly, it is evaluated and modified if needed to see if it reached those initial goals.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And so, as part of the conversation on policy, we also talked about local government bodies that adopt the policy. And so I'm going to hand it over to Nathan Miller.
It can be a little bit confusing to understand who's in charge of what within the city, because there are just so many governmental bodies. And so we took an entire meeting to talk about which bodies do what. We talked about city controlled governmental bodies like the school board, the police department, and our lovely city council. And we also talked about special purpose districts, which are a little bit more confusing, like the Ports Commission and the fire district. And to assess our understanding of all of this, we also did a short activity where we were given a question or a complaint leveled at the city government, and we were to find out which department we would go to if we had that question or complaint.
And so as part of that exercise too, in addition to, what city department, it was also what governing body to go to as well in the community. So Lacey Youth Council members would go to various areas based on the governing body and district, based off of what came forward from the concerned community member. So as part of Lacey Youth Council, something that has been a piece of the Lacey Youth Council since last year was having advisory board members on 4 of our advisory boards. So that is the Historical Commission, now the Parks, Culture and Recreation Commission, and the Library Board, and then the Commission on Equity. So we have 2 of our representatives here tonight to talk a little bit about their experiences. And so I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
I am the liaison to the Parks, Culture and Recreation Board, and I have just loved my time on the board. I've learned so much, and it's honestly just been a great experience. I just truly enjoy getting to make an impact in my community that's separate and different from the Lacey Youth Council, especially one that makes such a direct impact, especially on like parks, culture, and obviously recreation. But so a great example of that is the name change, of course, and I'm just glad that I got to have a hand in making this change in our community. And I've just had an awesome experience, especially with Chair Goodwin, who has been so kind and welcoming and has been just an amazing mentor, and just given me kind of free reign over what I want to do in like my commitment to the Parks Board. And so, like, for example, I got to choose what I wanted to do or help with on the work plan. And one of those items that I happened to choose was the wildlife information. And so I've just been working with my fellow parks commissioners to get information on the wildlife for our parks and working with the or just getting information from the recreation or board, whatever, Fish and Wildlife, and just looking into that so that we can provide information for our community in our parks.
And we have one more advisory board representative here, and that's Nathaniel.
I'm Nathaniel and I am the liaison to the library board. My time being a liaison for the library board has been a great one, being able to be in that environment. And well, I've definitely learned so much, and definitely learning the impact on learning, like reading and literacy at a younger age, what that affects younger minds, and having a chance to help make that difference. My time on that board has been an amazing, my time being a liaison for that board has been an amazing one. That's everything.
Great, thank you. At this time, we have a second half of this presentation, but at this time, are there any questions from the council about Lacey Youth Council activities to date?
Are there any questions? Well, first of all, this has been very exciting to get to hear everything you've been working on. Obviously, as you know, there has been quite a bit of a iteration from when we first got started to where we are now. And I've loved to see the growth of this youth council. And so thank you for what you're doing for the city of Lacey and our community. Robin?
I'm curious, for those of you that served last year, is this year feeling a little bit more solid? Like there's more connection opportunities? Because I know it was a little bit of a struggle during COVID when you didn't get to meet in person.
Yeah. Aaron?
Well, I guess I'll start. To answer your question, Councilmember, I feel like it is more, I feel like we're more connected as a group because obviously with COVID, we were disconnected online and things of that nature. I feel like definitely having an orientation, being, I think 6 hours it was, getting to know everyone. I feel like it's more of a, more of a family and more of a group, definitely this year. There are some things that I still wish happened more frequently, like meetings with council members, and maybe even after our reports, we get we get feedback or answers to our concerns. And that's really just something that I feel like we need to work together on. Is that nature?
Any other questions?
I have one, but I don't know if it's the right time to ask it. So you're a junior, you're a senior. This will be your last year on council. So how do you guys, what's the handoff like? Because I mean, from what you guys have shown, you guys have gone through these orientations, this bring you up to speed stuff. And then as you guys bring on additional new members and these guys go to college, then you have to, is that the orientation that he was talking about, the 6 hour orientation? And then there's got to be a handoff.
Yep.
So Deputy Mayor, to answer your question, per Lacey Youth Council policy, they serve 1-year terms. So every year, a youth council member, if they were, let's say a junior or senior, their subsequent years would have to reapply for Lacey Youth Council. And so the application process for Lacey Youth Council is going to be opening here in the next couple of months. And we're really hoping, to be able to lean on the Lacey Youth Council to help get the word out that Lacey Youth Council is starting to recruit, and also to get more information from them on ways we might also be able to engage in outreach. I know we're going to hear some comments to that effect here in just a second. And so certainly we want to take those comments to heart and see where we might be able to enhance our opportunities to engage youth members, to get them interested in the Lacey Youth Council for next year. So typically the application process closes in June, and then it goes through a review, and then there is an interview process with the mayor. And then after the interview process, the candidates for the next round are selected and they go forward in front of the whole council for appointment.
And so that's one of the things that we changed early on. Early on, when we first got started, it was just 7 youth council members, and they were seniors. And we realized we're going to have to redo this all over again. And a year wasn't going to be long enough. And so then we actually opened it up from, I think you can start off as a sophomore now. And so with the whole idea is that we can get some more than 1 year on the council. They'll have to reapply every year. But we realized that early on we needed to change that up because it was just too difficult to get everything we wanted to get done in one school year.
Yeah.
That is gonna have to take a multiple years. So that's one of the changes we made.
Awesome. I was thinking that was going to be a question for later after you guys, because it didn't really pertain to the things that we've already seen, but I just couldn't help but to ask it. So thank you for answering that.
Anything else?
All right, well, for the second part of tonight's joint meeting, the Lacey Youth Council members have been working to put together some presentations on some things that are important that they wanted to provide updates to the council and have discussions on with the council as part of this joint meeting. And so I am going to turn it back over to Keegan and Rihanna from River Ridge High School to talk a little bit about their topic, which was government accessibility.
Yeah, so an idea kind of natural to democracy and small government is that the effectiveness of it relies on the capacity and ease of residents to inform themselves about the government, the city, and to participate. And naturally, this requires time and prior knowledge about government. And unfortunately, many youth, many high schoolers don't have that time to invest and don't have that base of knowledge, which can make participation intimidating. And lessening the burden of that involvement and interaction could increase the amount of voices that are involved in the city decisions, which is a good thing. So we were looking at ways we could accomplish this. So I asked a lot of my classmates about if they had an idea that they wanted to turn into policy, a change in our city, like what would you do? And an overwhelming majority of them did not know where to start at all, or would go like to the first step and then be confused. And a lot of them did not even know the structure of our government relevant to getting involved with it. So we should improve the reach of where many look for information and guidance. And these places are digital platforms like the city website and social media, and especially in the context of youth here, schools. So for both of these, there's great room for improvement in accessibility and clarity. And I will now hand off to Rihanna to discuss some of that.
So the first point that Keegan mentioned was digital platforms, and one of the major areas that we focused on were the city website. So for most newcomers, the first who don't have like prior government knowledge, the first resource they come to is the city website. And from there, however, the direction on where to go is kind of unclear. The website, so we kind of had the idea that the website should provide somewhat of a clear starting point for those who don't know where to go. Items like bullet point list or numbered list explaining how the city government works. A Lacey resident should be able to visit the website with no prior knowledge on government participation and leave with a clear step-by-step kind of introduction to the ideas and potential ways to follow in action. There should be a central page or several about general topics. Information could include tips on comment or testimony during a public meeting, tips for contacting council members, and the steps to propose a possible policy.
So another angle of those digital platforms besides the city website is social media, which again is obviously very relevant to teenagers, and we get a lot of information and our communication on there. But there are revisions that are needed to the city's various social media accounts and their general presence on there. So just looking at like the main City of Lacey account and then like the board accounts or whatever, there are apparent problems. So there's disparities between the information provided on each platform. So you have to follow on like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the whole picture, when it should really all be relaying the same information to have that highest reach. And then more platforms should also be reached, like Telegram and TikTok, that are relevant to youth in order to extend that reach even more. And then with a lot of these new and relevant platforms, visual impressions are very important. The image attached to the post rather than the post's text itself. And that is another problem of scrolling through our city's social media accounts. I would see like images of beautiful Lacey landscapes, or we're hiring, like hiring what? And then also like that's a really cool picture of Lacey, but you're like, what are you talking about? So just having almost like those images act as like the headline of that post, I think is important for engaging more. And then opportunities for participation, public meetings on high profile issues, or just like events interacting with the city. It should be advertised on these accounts and emphasize the community as just kind of like reaching a hand out to an invitation. And another one of the accounts besides the main account that I kind of looked into was the youth council account, which is kind of dead. It's been very inactive, and I think that because we're supposed to be liaisons to the like our youth peers, our high schoolers, that we should engage with them from this youth council spot. And I don't know if this would take the form of, individual council members being able to draft posts to put on here to get that more personal engagement, or just a more organized formal effort, but it needs to be more active, and we need to have this sense that like all of us youth council members are there talking to our peers, and that can draw youth in to city government. And then overall is kind of an ending point. The accounts needs to be better optimized to the kind of like algorithms of social media to reach more people. So that can be something as simple as hashtags, or even interacting with local users on social media. A lot of like brands try this now, like Wendy's, and then also even government bodies like the Washington Department of Natural Resources. And I think that the city could try that as well, like replying to users who are posting things about Lacey, and drawing them into that community. And then I will hand it off to Rihanna again. You're hired.
So besides the internet, schools have a natural capacity to be effective with engaging with teenagers. So the city should try to collaborate more with North Thurston Public Schools to advertise the youth council, as well as projects or discussions that we are having in regards to youth related issues, maybe through posters or announcements. Social studies classes, which are required, should also have the opportunity to provide a more relevant context for basic education of students trying to interact with the city of Lacey, as well as the youth council, to represent their ideas and improve the city.
And then one kind of last section here, it's a bit of a departure. And that's connecting youth to appropriate employment opportunities. And yeah, it seems like a large pivot from the rest of the topic, but having a positive job experience with the city could actually like increase confidence and decrease that distance and that almost impenetrable feeling from the government quite a bit. But the problem is that advertising of these jobs in this kind of context relevant to youth is almost non-existent. It's pretty lackluster. And the schools, again, are a viable thing to consider. I know there's like career fairs, but then there's also like our advisory period. We have announcements then where these things could be shown. And then I also noticed on the city website, there's a job database, but it unfortunately does not have many good filters, especially relevant to youth, where that would be things like the qualifiers, credentials, prerequisites. So it's like, entry level jobs are definitely more relevant to youth. So they should be able to search kind of like by that. And then also schedule wise, like was this part-time or full-time? I noticed that was listed in the description of each job, but you can like search by it. And that's another thing that's really important for high school students. And then I'll give the mic to Rihanna for the conclusion.
Before I conclude, I did want to jump off of Keegan's portion about jobs. I also wanted to say, I think having more job accessibility for youth members will also increase their motivation to stay in Lacey, or if they move away for college or a job, whatever, and maybe wanting to come back because they know that there are good job opportunities here. But anyways, to close, a lot of these responses to these issues are relevantly low effort and low risk. So despite that, the potential of collective impact improves the valuable investment in connecting with Lacey's youth. as well as their connection with the council and its advisory boards to address more voices and youth issues. Increased awareness of the youth council would also be, of course, a benefit in increasing youth council application volume and communication between youth council members and their peers. The youth council has been an amazing motivating opportunity and tool and groups of people to be a part of, and a group to be a part of and utilize to connect with the city and broadcast youth perspectives and viewpoints on issues and projects. It should only be easier and more expansive to those who follow.
Well, thank you, Keegan and Rihanna, and I'm certainly asking for copies of their notes to take a look at those comments in more detail. Are there any questions for Keegan and Rihanna on government accessibility?
Oh, well, that was really cool. That's right. One of the full reasons why we want to have a youth council, so we can hear back from you to get recommendations on how we can have a more effective government. Specifically on the answer to a lot of these questions, I believe lies within the youth council, right? To be able to pull together an idea and propose it to the full council so we can have it for consideration to figure out policy. So one way you can do that is by, going back, looking at these questions and seeing how you do bring this forward to the full council for consideration. And where's the appropriate place to do that, right? Because it might not necessarily always be at the full council level. It might be at one of our committee levels. For example, with I think this is a great perspective of what are the job opportunities available here at the city of Lacey. But more importantly, you can expand that. Is there opportunities to work with our local Chamber of Commerce where we can develop one place where all the businesses in Lacey can advertise their jobs for youth, right? And so now it's not just the city of Lacey, but it's community building. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I think you should continue to brainstorm those opportunities and figure the appropriate place to move those ideas forward. I think from the full council.
Just real quick, I like a lot of what I heard, and I think like what you were saying about a social media person, like responding to and getting our making us a little bit more visible. That could be something like an intern position or something along those lines. I thank you for examining the website,
which is still new, by the way. We're developing it.
Yeah, but that examination is appreciated, and you're right. It does need a few things, but I think Shannon did a really good job with it because I had a really difficult time with the previous website.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I like about this website is it's translatable into 5 different languages. So I think that was a Commission on Equity thing. But it looks like you guys have your work cut out for you. But I just want to say we appreciate what you've done in bringing it here tonight to this meeting.
Deputy Mayor, if I could just respond to a couple of items. Number one, Public Affairs does have an intern currently.
Yeah.
And so we just brought on Celine, who is a student at St. Martin's. And so this is the first time in a couple of years that we have had an intern in the Public Affairs Department. And as part of the budget, we are also looking in the future to have an intern in the City Manager's Department as well. So hopefully using both of those as tools here in the future to evaluate some of our systems. The second comment I just want to make is that the website is really a team effort, and I just want to thank Kelly Adams and the rest of the public affairs team for all of the hard work that they've been doing on that, in addition to all of the department website liaisons.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I also love the idea of letting the youth council give feedback on content for the social media accounts attached to the youth council in the future, even if they're not. Maybe they wouldn't have the keys to the social media accounts entirely, but letting them come up with ideas based on what they're learning for posts on that account seems like a cool idea. And just in my day job, I'm an HR professional, and the suggestion of being able to search jobs based on how much experience is required is a really neat one. And I'm pretty familiar with the system that the city of Lacey uses, NeoGov, because lots of public employers use it. But it would be a huge improvement if you could search by years of experience or the type of experience needed for certain jobs so that you could filter your search based on what you were looking for. So that's a neat suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, on your Lacey Youth Council site, that's your site, right? You guys can make that site however you want to make that site. It's your youth council site. What you'll see is every great suggestion takes someone to do it, right? And so finding the correct staff person, or is it a volunteer? Is it, is it the youth council is responsible for it? Or are you expecting, someone else to do it? And so those are all the things they have to think about for local government. I can sit here and come up with, 10 really good ideas. And then it's like how you get an idea actually into fruition is a lot more difficult, right? I mean, it took 10 years to get a youth council here, not quite, but it was pretty close. So it's turning a good idea into actual results is a lot more difficult than we all wish it would be sometimes. But those were all very good suggestions. Mayor?
I just want to comment about the Lacey Youth Council Instagram that we have. We brought it up at our earlier meetings. I think it was Miss Adams and also Shannon. We asked about it and we asked if we can have a person, because we did have a person assigned to it last year. But there were, I believe, some instances that were brought up about not having one this year. I forget the exact reasoning for it, but can you elaborate on that?
Mayor, I don't know specifically. I wasn't part of those conversations, but I certainly think that's something we can evaluate for future Lacey Youth Councils, of bringing back that social media representative, which, as the mayor did mention, we did have that position in a previous year, and certainly something we can look for the 2023-2024 year.
Excellent.
I like what you said about taking an idea and turn it into a real tangible thing. And I have two daughters who graduated from Timberline High School. And that's kind of a saying around our house. How do you turn a should be into an is?
Yeah.
Right. Because I heard a lot of should be's, or, from my teenagers. And the trick is to convert that should be into an is. And you always need help.
Yep.
If you think you're going to do it by yourself, you're not. And if you don't think that you need help, you need to reevaluate, because most of this stuff that's done is done team only. Yeah.
And you have to stick with it, right? It's not just come up with a good idea, getting people on board. It's come up with a good idea, getting people on board and sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it. So now on public safety.
And that goes right back to how a policy an idea turns into a policy, right? So our second group is Timberline High School, and they are going to talk about public safety, and I'm going to hand it over to the mayor.
Yeah, so Timberline's topic is just the overall safety of the youth within our community. I'm going to start off with just early morning traffic as a Timberline student. So I'm going to start off with the question, though. How many of you have children? It's a lot, a good amount. Okay. And for some parents, their children run late in the morning, and that causes them to drive dangerously on the roads, to speed a little bit, and things of that nature. And combined with the early morning traffic on Mullen that really backs up onto Ruddle, it makes people make decisions that are not really safe. For example, earlier this year, and really throughout the year, I've seen many students and also parents drive in the opposite lanes to cut off some time to make sure that their student is there on time. And that's really an issue, because it really puts in danger pedestrians and other motorists that are just trying to get to school, trying to get their day started. And it shouldn't really be an issue to fear for your safety when you're just going to school, especially that early in the morning. My suggestion, though, is that Timberline has a school resource officer. And I talked to Chief about this at our last meeting, which was to either station that SRO officer in a area where they are present, because officer presence is the biggest deterrent in really any crime starting in the first place, felonious or just minor traffic incidents like this. To either have that officer stationed there or to have an officer directing traffic, which is probably not reasonable there, but mostly just to have an officer there present to ensure that people are driving safely and traffic is flowing easily, especially in the mornings. My second topic is about safety at our schools. And really, it's just safety in general within our youth. Our youth has an issue with, there's a big issue of using e-cigarettes and vaping. And it's sad to say that, but it's not enforced really throughout our community. It's not enforced because you could see it within our parking lots at school. You can see people congregating in a circle and passing around an e-cigarette, a vape, and nothing's happening. And that's an issue because they're going to get a dependence on it, and then that affects them lifelong. Another issue within our schools is that kids aren't really afraid of getting physically hit or bullied at school anymore. And that's really just because we have had systems over the years that really say that bullying isn't good. You know, hitting other kids isn't great. But we are lacking in the sense of harassment over or discrimination over race, and that's really a big issue. Another issue is sexual assault and harassment within our community and within our schools. The school district doesn't have a great reporting system, and that affects youth members, and they don't feel safe within our schools. So I think that if the school district isn't really doing much about it, it should be the city that really steps up to protect the residents within Lacey, making sure that there's a reporting system available to everyone and that it's out there and that it's advertised. I guess that kind of ties into what Keegan's and Ariana's points were, which was advertising services to youth members and also to members within our community. And I guess my final point is that about a month ago, or a little bit over a month ago, we heard some very emotional public comment from members of River Ridge High School, parents and also students, about their experiences with discrimination and sexual assault and whatnot. And I want to ask, what has the council done in communication with North Thurston Public Schools to at least alleviate any of these instances? So that's my question.
Sure. Thank you for the question. You're right. We did receive some outreach from students and some teachers, and we then immediately set a meeting with the students, students and parents. Then we set up a meeting with the students' parents to do a little bit deeper dive into just what where the city of Lacey could have some influence, and the deputy mayor, our interim city manager, Rick Rock, and myself were at that meeting. And it was brought up specifically about the reporting mechanism and the parents and the students not feeling like there was a good enough reporting mechanism. The deputy mayor and myself then met with the school board president and vice president, I think that's who it is, and to go over those concerns and ask, what is the school district doing? And this has been, this is a tough one where the school district, as you know, from being on the youth council, is an independently elected school board that is run separately from the city of Lacey. But as we pointed out, we are the mayor and the deputy mayor of the entire city, which includes our youth. And so we do feel like there is a connection there where we want to make sure our youth feel like they're safe and protected. And one of the ways that we do have a direct connection there is through our SROs. And so we've talked a little bit more about the SRO program. We would like to get a little more up to date on hearing some more concerns and even from the youth council about how maybe the SR can be more effective, how we continue to build relationships between law enforcement and our students. And we are going to be set up a meeting here pretty quick to talk to the chief and maybe some SROs about hearing from their perspective what's going on, because there's rules, right, that they have to follow as well. And so we have to figure out a way to make sure we can can be as effective as we possibly can when it comes to this. But you made some really good recommendations about what is the role of the SRO when they're at school. Can they be more of a presence when it comes to traffic around schools, enforcing the e-cigarette ban, or that's a good recommendation that I think we can continue to have some good conversations with. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, multiple conversations with the school board. I was at River Ridge last year, and I immediately turned around and scheduled an appointment with superintendent, because what I heard and saw really got under my skin, in that same kind of stuff that was happening when I was in high school. I thought we were past this. I hoped, but apparently we're not. And so, the reporting systems, they are not as granulated as they need to be. There is no individual column for racism. There is no individual column for sexual harassment. It all gets lumped under, disciplinary, right? And so, like I said to the school board, we track what's important to us, and we need to be tracking these items. And so those things will be coming up in future meetings. I turned around and had a subsequent meeting after our last meeting with the school board president at my office. We did make some headway in there, and we'll be taking some of that stuff to the next meeting that we go into.
More.
Hello, council members. Again, I am Kiara Coleman from Timberland High School, and I'm a junior. I've lived in Lacey my whole life, and I know that culture and diversity is like nothing new here. We have so many different people from so many different backgrounds, which makes our community so unique in my eyes. And one thing that Lacey does is the cultural celebration. And I feel like the youth misses out on a lot of this information. Like, I had no idea that was ever a thing until my mom had told me, like, just this year. And I feel like having a cultural celebration is actually a really cool thing to have. And I feel like that would be best if it was more expanded towards the youth. And I feel like maybe having somebody come and talk to us at our school or inform us that this is going on could really help us get a really good insight of other cultures and make sure we can be more mindful to other people and other cultures. And not only would it increase our participation, but allow others, again, an insight on other cultures. So hopefully that can be discussed and maybe looked further into, and hopefully that can be expanded. Thank you, council members.
I couldn't agree more. First of all, I think our cultural celebration, obviously the past couple of years, we didn't, with the pandemic, we didn't have it. And so we missed out on a couple of years there. But this is so important to this city council that the city agreed to take this on when it was about to go away. Right. And so the city of Lacey stepped up and said, no, this is important to our community. This is one of those free events that we think needs to stay. And so the city of Lacey stepped up and said we would take it on. So I agree that then you can always promote better on these things. One of the things that I've been talking about this for quite a long time, where I really think you can expand that overall day to include a time where the different cultures could share a meal. I think sharing a meal with someone is really one of the most important things you can do, not only to learn about their food, but to learn about the culture and get to know people over food. I think that's really important. So years ago, we started talking about how do we come up with this idea of diversity cooks, where we could have the different cultures within the city of Lacey get together, make a meal, and share it with, and I was really hoping, I've kept on hinting this from the very first youth council meeting I ever attended when we first got started, where, maybe there's a role of the youth council to help spearhead something like this. So if that is something you're interested in, I think there is a way there to get our youth involved, right? Because I think the best way to figure out how you get the food and connect with the cultures is through our high schools too, because that's a good representation. And I'm sure we can find some good cooks out there. And I think you could probably add that on to the cultural event either at the end of the day or maybe the night before to kicks everything off to really get the youth involved. And so I think it's been my 2 cents. I've been actually talking about this for I don't know how many years, but I would love to see the youth council take on a project like that.
So you said that you would like to see more of what we're doing at the city level, like the cultural type stuff advertised or at least presented at your school. None of it, are you seeing or hearing none of it? Is that what you're saying?
I've never seen like anything
Nothing.
or no advertisements about it. No.
Okay.
And I think that's good. I think that's good advice. I think when it comes to posters and advertising, I think there's a way that we can connect through our youth council, right? Through you on how to get posters out and how to get information out. So your schools are aware of the events that are going on, especially all the free events that happen are sponsored by, through the city of Lacey. Lacey Fun Fair is the next, a big one coming up. Everyone at all of your schools should know all about that and what's going on. And I'm sure, and hopefully you guys will have a presence at the Lacey Fun Fair as well. So we need to think a little bit harder about how we disseminate that information through you to get out to your schools.
One of the things would be like the LTAC calendar.
Yeah, I mean, there's
All those
a lot of
events,
things we
yeah.
can think about. So, one more.
Hi, I am Nathaniel Clay. In the year of 2022, our city's water quality has met and exceeded the state standards. There are some areas that we can improve upon as we did not meet our own. And there is a new project underway that I believe can help achieve that, which is the West Side Aeration Facility. And I believe that is the next step in improving our city's water quality. And
The public works plant that seed.
Yeah, you don't have to explain what I paid you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's very important, and we agree. I'm sure that we're in the process of looking at that. So thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. To conclude Timberline's presentation, I would like to present on everyone's favorite topic here, crime in Lacey. In the city of Lacey, it's hard to ignore the increase in crime, whether it's considered a dangerous crime or just a crime like property crime and simple traffic violations. For example, on the Thurston County scanner, you can see around 10 crimes reported daily. And of course, that's not all the crimes that happen every day, just what is reported. Sorry. And I do understand that Thurston County has a lot of cities in its barriers. However, any city that surrounds Lacey affects Lacey as well. Let's go back to just Lacey for a second. The crime rates have increased by 6.2%. Aggravated assault has increased by 35.6%. Arson has increased by 11.1%. Weapon violations have increased by 20%. Auto thefts have increased by 35%. And burglary has increased by 56.1%. Those are statistics from the years 2021 to 2022 and have been increasing since 2017. Many will say that the increasing crime was supposed to happen due to the decrease in crime when we're all quarantined. However, those people are ignoring the fact that Lacey is becoming dangerous by the day and are only supposed to become more dangerous by the day. Some people may also look for the state for help, only to be disappointed by them ratifying the Bill 1054 regarding police tactics, aka the non-pursuit law, and Bill 1310 regarding the use of force by the police. Both these bills were revised and turned into laws. However, both these laws hinder our police officers' abilities to protect innocent civilians. Some of the problems that Lacey faces that increases our crime rates are: one, we are on the I-5 corridor, making it possible for criminals to have an easy entrance and escape. After criminals enter I-5, it would leave a small chance for our police officers to chase them due to the high restricted pursuit laws, as I mentioned earlier. And two, we have a huge homeless population, setting our grocery stores up for crimes of desperation. And lastly, our police force is not growing alongside the growth of our city, making it difficult for our police officers to keep up with the rising crime. I do understand that the city of Lacey has a police budget that can't support an introduction of more police officers. However, this has been brought to the people's attention. It needs to be publicized and hopes to be heard by the state.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Timberline High School? So we have one more presentation, and that is from North Thurston High School and Pope John Paul II High School.
So North Thurston's and Pope John Paul's topic is homelessness and public safety. So for a little bit of context, we are specifically talking about the homelessness that's population that's placed next to the school of North Thurston High School. And so each day there are hundreds of students who go down to the Safeway that is right next to the school, and there is a small homeless population that lives on that street. And it poses quite a bit of danger for all the students who are traveling through that lane in and out every single day. And we're just hoping that we can do something about it. So we had I sent out a survey to all of the population of North Thurston, which is about 1,400 students, though my survey was taken from about 200 people. So as you know, surveys are really hard for engagement. So I'm glad that we could get at least 200. So some of our data includes, so we asked this question, do you feel the homeless population near the school is an issue? And over 70% of the people said yes or maybe. And that's a huge percentage of the population. And we're looking to just try and lower that. As well as what percentage of people have felt unsafe because of the homeless population. And that is, what is this? Or hold up, sorry. Which is roughly 60% of the people who have felt unsafe from just passing by. And the majority of the people who pass by Safeway oh my gosh, there's like 80% of the population passes by Safeway at least once a day. And it's just a huge issue that we're looking to see.
Okay, so we asked about different interactions that people had with the homeless population near Safeway, and we got responses talking about people trying to steal food or money or following them back to school, and just stuff laying around the sidewalk, and just being afraid of different encounters, especially since so many people walk to Safeway. And to resolve this issue, I know that we got a little bit of context from Chief Almada when he came to present about the homeless population and public safety. And we talked about the ways that the city was treating and addressing the issue. And he made it known that we had to focus on being empathetic and building relationships with the homeless population before doing anything else, and making sure they had the right resources. So I know that it may take some time to solve the issue, but I do think it's really important for us to be safe as students. And I know that we have some student resource officers, but I feel like we might need to have a little bit more if the issue gets out of hand.
Well, thank you. That is an area that everyone on the city council can empathize with the students of North Thurston High School about. It is no man's land because it's not in the city of Lacey, right? It's that stretch is in the city of Olympia. This has become an issue that's gotten worse and worse over there, unfortunately. There is some good news on the horizon. One of the good news is that the state has finally given us some resources to deal with the homeless population that are in the DOT right-of-way areas, which is where most of those camps are. You did point out there's some few people over behind that Safeway area, but the majority of the camp is in the DOT right-of-way. We've received quite a lot of dollars actually recently, and we're in there's some programs that are going to be in place. And I think maybe Councilmember Cox can talk a little bit more about when there's that time period of when those resources are going to come online. Number one, that will help because there will be some resources available for people who are there. But number two, our acting city manager just whispered in my ear, since this is something that we've known has gotten worse just even recently, that he's having a meeting with the DOT in the city of Olympia to talk about this issue. Because this is something that, this council gets talked to, emails on a regular basis about, and we know how dangerous it's become with people even walking around in those areas. And so it's an issue that we're very aware of. And we do have some resources on the way. You want to talk about, Councilmember Cox?
Hi, thank you. I don't know how many of you are aware that the state, through the Low Income Housing Institute, has purchased the Days Inn Hotel. It's out in the Hawks Prairie area south of the freeway. And it is being renovated even as we speak and should open. It's going to be called Maple Court, and it should be open by June. Now, there are already some people who are housed there, but we should be able to start taking in more people from these freeway encampments. They will get first priority, as well as the people who are already staying in the hotel. But the idea is trying to get people into housing so you don't have those unsafe situations that are hard on everybody. We all also have a project that's going up in Olympia pretty soon. It's going to have 162 permanent supportive housing units. And there are other projects that are things are really starting to roll now that we're getting more state funding as well as more federal funding. So I think you can look forward to, we're never going to see perfect, but I think it's going to be a lot better before too long.
Sure.
I appreciate your testimony on that particular subject, and the mayor is correct. It is a source of contention for the city of Lacey in our council. I would encourage this youth council to take an opportunity and go and talk to the Olympia City Council and see if we can put that on the agenda where we can have a format like what we're doing here today with Lacey and appeal to the council members with Olympia with these issues. Go straight to the source. So the housing that's coming on board in June is not necessarily going to be a fix-all for everything. We're still going to have issues with homelessness. I believe that it's not going to go away. It may reduce the number of homeless campers that we have around the city, but it won't eliminate them. There's still going to be some holdouts that don't want the services that are being offered to them because it comes with expectations. So keep that in mind, and I would encourage you folks, if you can arrange to seat with the City Council of Olympia, that might be a good idea. I think they need to hear your perspective.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things that we can do is if you can share your information from what you've done for your polling, we making sure that that Rick has that information. So when he meets with the DOT in the city of Olympia, that we can remind them that there is a high school right next door, and this is the feelings that are straight coming from our students, and so hopefully they will take that into account.
And I can just add one little bit. It's one of those things too. It's kind of shows how sometimes local government has to work, because as you have mentioned, you have these boundaries that are in common or intertwined between different jurisdictions. You have the I-5 corridor that runs through. And you can take a city that has its direct services, like I know Chief Almada talked to you guys about this community resource unit, the mobile outreach team that we do within the city limits for those where we have the authority. But what the community or communities don't really see is what those behind the scene conversations, and that comes through dialogue and facilitating these conversations. Say, okay, how do we approach these things in common, even if we may have a little bit different philosophies or approach? How do we try to work on these things together to address some of these issues that kind of get on those common borders? And it's not just with homeless response. It's also relates to street maintenance. It also relates to mutual aid for services. So there are all of these different things that go beyond just a direct service within the jurisdiction, but also how do we relate to our other neighboring jurisdictions and either look to create efficiencies of service, policies, or work out these issues that come on these common borders. So I think it's something to think about as a youth council as you look to participating in local government in the future, that there's these conversations that's important and to facilitate. And this is an example of that tonight, which I think is very, very great and it's a powerful conversation it's having.
We wrapped up. We're on last with.
We have one more Lacey Youth Council member, and that's Nathan, to provide some comments on the same topic.
Go ahead, real quick, Councilmember.
Okay, just one quick thing on that note. Olympia is also forming a youth council. And I think, I don't know whether this school year it's realistic to think that there could be a joint meeting, probably not. But for next year, I would think you all could support each other pretty well and have exchange of information and ideas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just a thought.
they're just a little bit behind Lacey, but they'll be starting their own youth council. I think it's gonna be next school year. So I think there will be an opportunity for our youth councils to work together in the future.
Here's a way that you folks can lead and show them how it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Pope John Paul.
Yeah, so I was attached to North Thurston High School's project, but of course, being a Pope John Paul II high school student myself, I obviously can't relate to what they're going through. So I decided to take a step back with my part of this and look at the problem as more of a holistic approach. And so I spoke with Mr. Pers, who was on the homelessness task force, and he's also the coordinator for the Sacred Heart Men's Shelter. And I also talked to Officer Beltran of the Community Resource Unit, and he surprised me by bringing along some mobile outreach team members too. So that was greatly appreciated. And from those conversations, I learned a little bit more about the underlying causes of their issue, which I think that there is a difference between being safe and feeling safe. And
absolutely,
the problem that I think the North Thurston students have is that they don't feel safe, but a lot of the aggression that the homeless population can display sometimes are just expressions of, like, sometimes just mental crises and whatnot. Like, it's not usually actual danger that people are being put in, I feel. And this leads to some harmful stereotypes around the homeless population. And I know that we were talking about the hotel, which was turned into low-income housing, or is in the process of being turned into low-income housing. But I'm also aware that we have tried to do some other stuff with RV parks, and that has been met with some very critical reception. And it's our understanding of the homeless population that leads to our action being prevented from actually helping the homeless population. And so to alleviate that lack of understanding, I think that we should start in high schools. And some possible solutions that I was made aware of are homeless prevention education. One of the mobile outreach team members was talking about how when he got out of high school, he had like no clue how to function as an adult. And there are just those fundamental things to be a good contributor to society that some people just don't get, and then they end up on the streets because of that. And if we have education in the high school to tell people not only how to not end up on the street, which is a very good thing, but also how close they are to being on the streets, that can go miles to build empathy for the homeless people, because they see how close they are to being like them. Another thing that I was thinking about was at Pope John Paul II High School, we have 10 hours of community service required in freshman year, 20 hours in sophomore and junior year, and then 30 hours in senior year. And all of those have to be to marginalized communities such as the homeless population. And I was looking up some of the requirements for public schools in the area and noticed that there was a significant lack there. And of course, making every student do it at a public school would be a little bit unreasonable. Like, there are some people in schools who would fall under those marginalized populations. But at the same time, I do feel that having that interaction with marginalized populations, people living on the sidelines of society, goes a very long way to help us to understand what they're going through and the larger problems, and to build empathy to make us want to help them and not say no to RV parks. And then a final suggestion that I have, because obviously bumping up community service requirements is a little bit on the more unfeasible side, is city-sponsored service opportunities directed for high school students. These could just be like one day every month where the city chooses a charitable organization to partner up with, and then invites high school students in the area to be a part of that and get to understand the problems of the community, and also help alleviate those problems and get exposure to the actual homeless population in a safe, controlled environment so that they can understand. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I've realized over my time as an elected official, and I'm right now, I'm the longest elected official here on the council, is that people's perceptions very quickly become their reality, right? And so it's really hard to get someone to change their perceptions on a certain issue unless you can get them to do exactly what you said, is interact with people and build empathy. And so that is always an ongoing issue of how do you get people to interact with someone that they have a perceived threat with, right? And I think that's something that we need to all think about as you starting off as our youth. And you're right, it starts with our youth and being under a safe circumstance where you can do that, and then be able to continue to teach, from generation to generation. Empathy is a tough thing, right? Because you have to actually know what it's like for the other person's experiencing, and it's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to actually put yourself out there. But the perceived lack of security is very real, and we have to figure out where that balance is. And so I think that's really good. It's a really good perception that there's people that don't feel safe. I think you made a very good point that may be just a perception and not the reality. But how we figure those things out is, I think, upon all of us. You can't just look to Lacey City Council to try to figure that out. You can't just look to Lacey Youth Council to figure out. We all have to figure it out together. We're all in this together, right? And how we overcome big community as you get the whole community involved. So, Stedman, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind the youth council that they're here because they bring a different perspective, and you're all very bright, and you're the future leaders of tomorrow. You're doing it today, long before your time. So as you're working your term and you're doing your work as council members, build that network, build these relationships, gain the trust, because far into the future, not just here, but you'll have ideas and you can gain support, and that's how good ideas become problem solutions. So lean on your network and build it. Okay, you guys are doing great.
Thank you for that. With that, we are over time, Shannon.
Well, that is pretty much the end of the presentations, Mr. Mayor. We do have a recommendation, which is to adopt the Lacey Youth Council's remaining 2023 work plan.
Can I get a motion, please?
Move to adopt the City of Lacey Youth Council's remaining 2023 work plan.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember.
If council members want to come visit future meetings, can we just drop in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've done it a couple times.
Well, as a first joint work session, this was very enlightening. And thank you again for giving back to your community. You're making a difference already. So thank you for that. With that, there's been a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? And that motion unanimously carries. Thank you. And with this, we'll adjourn our Lacey City Youth Council Works joint meeting, and we'll go in just a couple minutes. We'll give some time to go over to our Commission on Equity.
Wow, good job, you guys.
Very. That was awesome. Yeah.
Nice work.
Thank you.
I was just asking if she was like.
It's a lot of all the work Kelly put in and yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, right now. Okay. And
The youngest is going to be 20.
We're getting there.
Do we have bathroom? Do we have a time for a bathroom break or do we have like? Real quick?
I'm just listening to Deputy Mayor, like, one of the things at the cultural celebration. Is, schools as well as out in the community as well. I mean, that's something I think you both community art teachers. Maybe. Bookmark, exactly. But this would be your cultural celebration. What's cultural? And then have a poster.
Idea going.
And you can have each one of those schools have like a poster contest. They do like rock and roll poster, you know, the old, you know. And I still think too, if we work with. And have very similar about World Park and San Diego. I think I told you about that. Yeah, but. I didn't have that. Yeah. We can do it at our museum in Culverson, or we can do that over there.
Okay, well, I know the deputy mayor stepped out for a second. Oh, there he is. So let's go on to our next agenda item, which is our joint meeting with our city council and commission on equity. Turn it over.
Well, good evening again, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. We are here for a joint meeting with the Lacey Commission on Equity. And I'd like to do a quick round of introductions for both council members and the commissioners. If we could start over there, Councilmember Kunkel, and go around the story or circle, excuse me.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Christine.
I am Carolyn Cox from the council.
Deputy Mayor Malcolm Miller.
Robin Vasquez, Lacey City Council.
Then Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Council member Michael Stedman.
And I am well, the mayor of Lacey, and then we have a let's go around and do the equity members.
We have a yeah, great.
Yeah. So I think we have a couple online. At least one.
Commissioner John Hegwood.
Great. And who else do we have?
Hello, Kim Sauer here.
Great.
And I believe Commissioner Clay, are you also online?
Commissioner Clay is not on the Zoom.
Thank you.
And I'm Cliff Brown, Chair of the Commission.
Great.
All right, well, we are here tonight to go over the 2023 work plan for the Commission on Equity. And just really quickly to provide some background on the commission. The commission was created by the Lacey Youth Council, or sorry, excuse me, the Lacey Council back in 2021, and really with the tasks of creating a more welcoming community, as well as continuing critical conversations on race and equity, increasing involvement from underrepresented community members, and removing barriers that may prevent full participation in government and public policy. So what we want to do here tonight is provide a brief overview of all of the 2022 activities that the Commission on Equity has been engaged in, as well as take a look at the 2023 work plan. And our recommendation would be to approve the 2023 work plan for the Commission on Equity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our chair, Brown.
Thank you very much, Shannon. I just want to take a moment to thank the council for this opportunity tonight to present to you, and to thank you for all of the support you've given us over the last 2 years since our inception. For the council members, I've seen you out at the various events and activities in the community, and we really, really appreciate that support. And also to the various departments of the city that we've met with. They've come in and shared their plans and information. They've asked for our input, and they've been very receptive of the input that we've been able to provide them. And there are other, key events and activities that are, sponsored by the city that we've been able to participate in and have input on that we really appreciate being able to do that. And then finally to, the community members who've given their time to us to listen to us and to provide feedback at some of the sessions that we've held with them. They've really given us some great ideas that we've been able to share and make a part of our plan and to share with the council. And so with that, we want to go through, quickly our plans. We're going to review briefly the 2022, what we've done, and then we'll move and share some of the 2023 work plan with you. So with that, Commissioner Stolberg.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of quickly walk through some of the activities that we did in 2020, the beginning half of 2022, though I can go through the rest if you want me to, Shannon. I don't know if, okay. So in January, we continued work on our DEI strategic plan with workshop number 4 on revisiting equity, values, mission, and vision statements. And then started to talk about planning for some focus group, subcommittee, and community engagement opportunities, as well as planning for the Juneteenth celebration. In February, we had our joint meeting with all of you, the Lacey City Council, and reviewed our 2022 work plan. And then we also heard a presentation on the BIPOC Business Startup Training Program. In February, we also had a presentation from the Lacey PD and some good discussion there, and continued working on our strategic plan with our workshop number 5 on value-based decision-making in practice, and then continued planning on our focus groups and our participation in the Lacey Cultural Celebration. In March, we had our first focus group with the Lacey Youth Council, which was really good to kind of gather their input because it's a perspective that we wouldn't have if we didn't have that opportunity to work with them. And then continued planning for the Lacey Cultural Celebration. We discussed developing a community connectivity assessment, which is kind of a crosswalk document of organizations, community-based organizations that provide different services throughout the community, including education, colleges, different CBOs that provide different services, and continued with the strategic planning with workshop number 7 on creating and prioritizing action. And in April, we did reviewing some policies. We reviewed the parks and recreation facility policies, as well as the parks, culture, and recreation comprehensive plan and public involvement plan, and the city's communication plan, and provided some input on all of those. And then in May, we had a presentation on the Thurston County Climate Mitigation Plan. We also reviewed the city's proclamation policy and reviewed the flag policy with the recommendation to include the Juneteenth flag in 2022. We continued developing the CCA and planning for our participation in the Juneteenth celebration, and an update from the Police Facility Community Advisory Panel, which I believe it was Commissioner Sauer who was participated in that. And then in June, we participated and had a booth at the 41st Juneteenth celebration in partnership with the Fred U. Harris Lodge. Continued work on the strategic plan with workshop number 9, monitoring and accountability of DEI strategic planning, as well as a workshop on focus areas, impact statements, and strategies. Did some more review of the flag policy and had an update from the Police Facility Community Advisory Panel. And then I don't think Commissioner Jackson is here, right?
Yes. I'll take the third quarter. Yeah, so as we entered the third quarter, we continued to be busy, and we started with a public Public Works presentation. And it was a really good presentation and had some vigorous discussion during that presentation. So we appreciated that. And then the flag policy review. This is something that we're pretty proud of, and that we reviewed the policy, made a recommendation, and it was approved for the Juneteenth flag to be added to the approved flags to be flown for the city. Then in August, we had a finance presentation. So we got to learn about the city budget and get a good feel for how things are going along those lines. And then we continued our planning, of course, with the workshop. And then the Juneteenth after action report. So the Juneteenth event happened in June. It was very successful. And we all agreed on that doing the after action review. And the partnership was just strong. It really worked out well. And as a result, we're working together again for 2023. And you'll be hearing more about that as we go forward. And then our city attorney gave us a presentation, and we got to learn about his office and the plans and things that he's doing in his particular office. And then in the third quarter, we and a number of you were present at the Nat and Thelma Jackson Historical Marker event that was held at the community center. So we appreciate that. An overview of the affordable housing strategy, and there was quite a bit of discussion during that presentation. That was really good presentation and engaging. That's an important area for us and for the city. Then, of course, the draft of the land acknowledgement and land acknowledgement policy was reviewed, and some edits and some updates were made to that, and recommendations went forward. And then, of course, the strategic plan and workshop is ongoing, and we're making great progress, along those lines. And then our community engagement efforts and initiative are ongoing, and you'll hear about some of the things we have planned for 2023. Okay. All right, with that, Commissioner Sauer.
Oh, I am supposed to talk about this.
The 2023.
Okay, 2023, the category Q1, we have 4 work plan in that category of engagement. Where we'll be holding a joint and informational meeting with DEI representative from local education and institute. And we did that last month, didn't we? I'm sorry, I can't quite remember. Yeah, and we are scheduling some focus group meetings, and I know that first one is coming up on 21st at the local First Baptist Church with Black community, and then we have throughout there more are scheduled. We have participated in Lacey Cultural Celebration last Saturday, and all the commissioner kind of took a turn attending and meeting community members. And there's 4 policy items that we will be reviewing, research and review potential compensation opportunity to advisory board members. And we'll be creating a recommendation for the city council. We'll continue to work on a draft land acknowledgement and land acknowledgement policy, and that we will be solicit input from the Nisqually Indian tribes and Squaxin Indian Island tribe. I'm sorry. We'll be continually reviewing the corporate sponsorship policy with the Board of Parks. Okay, I lost my screen. I apologize. Am I still online or? think I'm kicked out.
You are. I think the city might have lost theirs.
I was just gonna say, you're not the only one. Oh, there it comes.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
You're back.
So we hope to wrap that conversation up with the other advisory bodies this month to bring back a recommendation to the Commission on Equity, and then hopefully get that recommendation in front of the Lacey City Council sometime after that.
Great. You're on policy item 6. I'm not sure who's taking that over.
So Kim,
Yeah, I would really like you to continue on there because I might lose the connection again. And
Sure.
so, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's if you can continue.
okay, great. And the other thing is that we spent a lot of time in multiple meetings on was the corporate sponsorship policy with the parks, with the Board of Park Commissioners. And we had a joint meeting with the commission and had a really good discussion and some great recommendations and a great review of their policy. So it's good. All right. Commissioner Clay is not on tonight, so did she join? Okay, great. Commissioner Clay? Quarter 2.
I'm trying. Am I there?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking into the second quarter of next 2023 this year. We're planning in terms of engagement category, we're planning on meeting with more of the diversity, equity, and inclusion offices with the other local governments and maybe St. Martin's, Evergreen. And we hope that that will become kind of a regular thing so that we can brainstorm and share ideas and make things really happen. We will continue to hold our small focus groups. We had those big community listening sessions. Now we're dialing down to some of our sub-communities. In May or June, we have one planned with the LGBTQ I+ community. Our strategic plan, we will continue that. And then hopefully we will be, when we get our draft, which is almost finished, then we'll be looking for some feedback from other city departments as they have brought their
Policy items, we're going to continue to work on our land acknowledgement and hopefully be able to come back with a recommendation in quarter 2 on a land acknowledgement. We're also going to start doing some research on community liaison programs and then other policy documents as they come up, which I'm sure they will come up as they already have during quarter 1. And for program items, we're going to make a recommendation on the utility wrap project for 2023 with the Historical Commission. So this is something that is in our adopted art plan to have utility wraps. And we really wanted to connect that with our local history and really focusing and emphasizing on diverse voices in Lacey's history. And so we are hoping pretty soon to be able to go out for a RFQ for artists that will highlight, community members that have played a prominent role here in the city of Lacey, as well as the urban growth area. We're also going to start looking at community survey options. So this is something connected partially in part to the diversity, equity, inclusion plan, but also just to get a broader kind of feedback on items in the community and kind of see where the city of Lacey is comparative to comparable sized cities. And then also something that we'd like to do, with some frequency. So we're proposing every 2 years. So that way we can see if there are, changing community sentiments and evaluate, what our programs and policies and initiatives are connected to those types of programs here at the city. And we're also actively working on the Juneteenth celebration. And Chair Brown, do you have any information you want to provide on the next round of the Juneteenth celebration?
Well, we've had several meetings and I can announce to you tonight that General Bronson has agreed to be our keynote speaker.
Oh, wow.
You know, for that event. And so we're excited about that. The plan is moving forward to have him as the speaker. And this year, they're really doing a great job to improve it and make it more fun. So there will be some entertainment this year. So we'll have a band. There's a local artist that will be performing, and the River Ridge High School drill team will be performing for us as well. We're going to have a bigger space. We're going to have more information booths that will be provided. Still, we're staying away from any vendors. We just want information booth, information to be shared about the organizations in the city of Lacey and things that are happening in the community. So excited about the event. It's going to be fun.
Commissioner Hedgewood, are you there to take quarter three?
Absolutely. So again, kind of the ongoing theme of holding joint and informational meetings with local nonprofit service providers, as well as the focus groups with community members and affinity groups, as well as those community engagement sessions that a few folks before me have touched on. These are really kind of an important touchstone for the commission that we really want to reach out to community, get feedback. We kind of did that also at the celebration this last Saturday. We got a lot of great ideas, and kind of more of that is what we're looking for. As far as engagement and getting out there. Strategically, we're still working on our DEI strategic plan in quarter three for the following year. It'll be that and soliciting feedback on that with community stakeholders. We're going to continue doing the research and review for the paid community liaison program, and then creating a recommendation for the city council. Equity tools is something we're going to be researching and reviewing for, as well as reviewing city policy documents ad hoc whenever we need to. Making recommendations for the community survey, and then again, of course, the participation at the Juneteenth celebration that our chair just mentioned. That'll be a great time for everybody. Should I just go ahead to quote Q4?
That'd be fantastic, Commissioner.
Great. Holding focus groups with community members again, and probably some more of those other ones that we talked about previously, whatever that looks like. The more the merrier is kind of the general goal. Continuing work with the strategic DEI plan, and then recommending the DEI strategic plan for adoption. Continuing research and review on potential equity tools like that equity heat map that we mentioned last year. Starting research and review of the equity maps, and then reviewing of other city policy documents again as that occurs.
So council members, the recommendation is again to approve the 2023 work plan for the Commission on Equity. Are there any questions that I or the Commission on Equity can answer?
I have one question. On the land acknowledgement work that you all are doing, has there been input from the tribes on that? Okay.
Yeah, so Councilmember Cox, we are working with the Nisqually tribe, and we've also sent the information out to the Squaxin tribe.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to accept the Commission on Equity's 2023 work plan?
Okay, I move to approve the Commission on Equity's 2023 work plan.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? And that motion unanimously carries. We've approved the 2023 work plan. And with that, is there anything for the good of order from the Commission on Equity?
I would again just applaud.
Boy, we're really, you totally went out there, buddy.
Is there a storm out there? We don't know about.
Sorry about that.
We're really having connectivity issues. Sorry, folks who are phoning in.
Okay, we do have one more good of the order. I'm gonna turn it over to Rick. We received a letter from Safe Place asking if we would support the state ask, and I talked to Rick, and Shannon's been involved or try to get some more information on this, but you want to fill us in?
Yeah, As that came in, Shannon reached out to Brian Enzo, our local lobbyist, and got some information from him. So Shannon can probably share what she's learned from Brian.
Sure. So, just briefly, it sounds like the decrease in funding has been declining from federal funds over the last couple of years. And so Safe Place is, looking for the state to provide some additional support to help cover the gap in funding. And that is what the letter requests. And certainly if the council would like to move forward with sending out this letter, we just need consensus tonight, and we could make sure that that letter gets out to all of our representatives tomorrow.
Get a motion.
I'd like to move that the council support drafting a letter to send to our legislative members in support of seeking funding to close that gap for Safe Place. They're a fantastic organization that does a lot of good in our community.
I'll happily second that.
Then moved in second, and some discussion. I think this is pretty easy ask. Safe Place does this amazing work, and I'd hate to see any resources taken away from them. So with that, any other discussion? Seeing,
I'd just like to thank our commission members who are with us remotely and thank them for their patience with the connectivity issues, but all of you for the work that you've been doing. It's so important. And I really love that we're getting together to have these conversations. So thank you.
And I just want to clarify, this is not necessarily direct funding for Safe Place, but this is the crime prevention funding for domestic violence and sexual assault that they receive resources from, and it's something that supports the state. So I just want to make that clarification that
that's that's true. That's the pot of money that also funds them, which is why they're worried about it. So I think we made
Funds
that
is
clear.
a number of organizations across the state. Safe Place is just one. Yep.
Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously carries. With that, we've reached the end of, anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing else tonight.
I just wanted to say thank you to the commission on equity. It's not just here that it's at the TRPC level, it's at the county level. I noticed that a lot of jurisdictions have made their websites translatable into different languages. I can see that, some of the survey work that happens like out on the trails in the community. Now, when you pull it up on your phone, you can get it in Spanish, you can get it in Korean. What you guys are doing is really helping us make a more connected community. And I know that because my Korean friends and Spanish friends, they tell me these things. Like, dude, we didn't have, nobody before would, like, we couldn't participate before. And so now that this work is being done, those people actually feel like they're actually part of the community. So thank you.
It's important work. Thank you. With that, we've reached the end of our agenda. So without objection, I'll call this joint work session adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, Robin.
Thank you.